안녕하세요, 여러분. We've arrived in South Korea, and of course, it's our second day now, and we've already been to the COEX Mall, which maybe if you know something about books in South Korea, this is one of the public libraries here, which has also lots of coffee shops because there's a mall right next to it. So we've been to Starbucks and we had some nice hot chocolate. It's now 10 p.m. in the evening, so we actually have to head home in a few minutes. But we just wanted to sit down and enjoy a good book, look at the pictures we've taken all day, and just realize that we're here and actually, yeah, physically in South Korea right now. We've had a wonderful flight, and the food was actually amazing, but we didn't get any sleep. So I think I slept 11 hours last night, which is really a record for me. But apart from that, we're so happy we're here. Everything is so nice, and we've already learned some Korean as well. We can now order food in Korean, so I'm really proud of that. And regarding the books, I did start the one that I wanted to focus on in South Korea, which is The Vegetarian by Han Kang, on our flight to Frankfurt. So while we were still in Germany, I maybe got 16 pages in. And I also started listening to the audiobook for Monica Kim's The Eyes Are the Best Part. This is feminist horror, and I am expecting someone to be eaten throughout this book, so give me strength that I can stand up to this turn of events in that book at some point. Yeah, and other than that, we're just walking around all day, so we'll be really tired in the evening. The weather is wonderful, and overall, we're just really happy to be here. So I hope you enjoy some of the clips from our trip, and yeah, I'll give you an update later in the video.
First, I'll show you around our Airbnb. This is a traditional Korean home where you have this central courtyard from which every room branches off of, and we really enjoyed our stay here. We were set in a more historic part of the city, so we could explore all of these alleyways by foot. As you can see, it was quite crowded, but we tried to make the most of it. And we really enjoyed this more traditional architectural style. It was very interesting just to walk around, to have a look at the buildings, and yeah, enjoy this more traditional perspective on this city. And we also checked out this lovely cafe where I had literally the best drink of my life. I can't stress enough how lovely this was. You can also see the mountains in the background there. And this cafe was also a traditional house, so we really went all out on our more historic experiences here. Yeah, and we just took a little break from all the exploring. And then at night, we also had our first Korean dinner, which was lovely. And it was so easy to eat vegetarian. I was really surprised and, yeah, positively surprised. It started raining and we just walked around a bit more until it was dark and we went home. The next day was extremely sunny and we spent most of it exploring the main palace in Seoul. You will see lots of people wearing traditional costumes. You could rent them around the palace, and then the entry was for free. We did not join those people, but we did join a historic tour in English, and we were shown around the palace for about an hour, and then afterwards we explored on our own. So what I found most interesting was that in 1492, this whole place was actually burned to the ground by Japanese invaders, and it was left that way for hundreds of years. And then there was another colonial rule of Japan over Korea in the 20th century, and the central government of Japan in Korea actually raised a government building here as a symbolic place of colonial rule. And only in the 1990s, with the economic boom of South Korea, was the South Korean government able to restore some of the historic buildings. For example, this library that we visited. You had to take off your shoes and then you could explore the inside. Look at those ceilings. That was so stunning and artistic. There were little rooms branching off on the side where you could sit down and read. And there was also this lovely guide that was showing around some of these ladies and explaining some of the features of the rooms. The books were, of course, mostly in Korean, so we did not sit down to actually read. But we took some nice pictures and explored the area. For example, there were these touristy things you could use to pose for pictures. Of course, I could not resist. And dressed up as a Korean scholar from the Joseon period. There was also this small circular room next to the library where you could just sit down and relax. So we took a little break from all the exploring we had been doing so far. And as you'll see, it was crowded until then, but we started exploring more of the parts that were off the beaten track. And in this way you have some of the courtyards for yourself, so you can really imagine yourself in those Korean historical dramas. And then lastly, there was the ceremony of the changing of the guards, which was loud, colorful, and there were also so many people, so I couldn't take too many video clips. And as you can see, the costumes were really interesting, very colorful, the headwear, that was very interesting to experience. We also had this vegan lunch, which was super delicious. This is jjajangmyeon, which is black bean paste. And we also visited this cafe to have a little drink afterwards. And this was so stunning. I love the architecture. As you can see in the next picture, I don't know. This just does something to my soul. Haha, in Seoul. Then we headed a bit further out of Seoul to visit a mixture of an amusement park and a folk village. So this is a big park where they have buildings and historical settings from all over the country, from all different periods of history. And you're just free to walk around and explore. And we loved how they brought these places to life, because the way that they used the texture, for example, of these textiles, the food that they distributed throughout, it was really showing off the daily life of the people living here. So these were more rural living areas. You also had more sophisticated buildings of people that were on the upper end of the social hierarchy. But for the most part, this was amazing with the lunch that I have. For the most part, it was just the everyday living places of the local population during different times of Korean history. This park has lots of different attractions throughout the year. And I think this musical performance and dance performances are especially popular. As you can see, it's very skillful and artistic, but with lots of, just fun and banter, if you will. No, these performers are not shy, that's for sure. And you can see all of the people enjoying the show immensely. And then this was amazing because she just was chosen spontaneously, but she went along with it, and she just gave us such an amazing show. So she's being challenged here to try herself. Yeah, that was very impressive. Yeah, so this was just amazing to see, because there's no shyness whatsoever, and it's just all about having a good time, even if you make fun of yourself. That was very a lovely experience. And here, these colorful costumes were just so amazing. We then kept on exploring and just really enjoyed the whole day. I can't stress how lovely we found all of this. We also had a snack, of course, and I didn't show these clips, but we also used some of the more adventurous activities that you could do there. And then we also explored the more artisan parts of the park, where you could just look at these different kinds of activities that people used to do back in the day. And now we're exploring the secondary palace, which is the one that the king and his whole court fled to in 1492, when Japan came and destroyed his first palace. And here we were able to see the room with these amazing ceilings and this amazing woodwork, which you couldn't see in the first palace that we visited. And this place was much quieter. There was not so much going on here. Just look at these colors. This was just so amazing. I think I've said that enough in this video. But yeah, it's just so beautiful. Here's another library from 1776. Just a private library for one of the kings, I think. The place we're in right now is actually, I think it's called the Secret Garden. You can only visit while doing a tour. So we were able to do that. And you can see we had a sunshine again. So just so much luck with the weather for exploring this lovely, lovely city. Here I was trying to get into the mood for autumn, but it was so lush and green still in Seoul. I'm a bit sad that we missed all of the autumn leaves, but it's okay. We had lovely colors of leaves in Japan later during our trip. Again, we found such lovely places to eat. And now you will see the more modern side of Seoul, because on our last night we chose to visit Seoul Tower, or Namsan Tower if you want. So this was the view from the base of the tower before we went up. And this is upstairs. Upstairs, of course, we took a lift. so you'll see it getting darker and darker as the sun goes down. And we also had a little bit of mist in the distance, so the view wasn't too clear.
You can sit on the toilet here and look out. Isn't that funny?
The me from Germany is going to take over now and talk a bit more about the book that I read while I was in Seoul, and I hope you enjoy. We had the loveliest time here. I hope that came across.
Hello guys, welcome back to Germany. Thought I would give you my final thoughts on Mona Kim's The Eyes Are the Best Part, which I listened to on audio while we were traveling. And if I remember correctly, I enjoyed this book, I think, okay. It wasn't a favorite, but I flew through it. It was very easy to read. The gore, it's horror, so there will be some like horror body elements and also gory parts of the book. And I made it through those pretty okay. I think they weren't too bad. This is a person with a Korean background living in the US. I think the author as well as the main character. So it was definitely different from The Vegetarian, which was set in South Korea in a South Korean family, and it was interesting to get this kind of different perspective on, people from South Korea who few generations ago went to the US, moved there, and then raised their children there, and what these children experience nowadays. I think that was very interesting and very well done. I like the sisterly dynamic in this book. But yeah, it's not something that is going to stick with me. I'm pretty sure. But I'd be open to read more by Monica Kim. I'll have to see what else she has published and whether I want to continue reading this author, because overall I like the writing style. And some of the things that happened were really surprising, but it wasn't an ingenious book, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. Okay, I checked online, and she's actually publishing a new book in 2026, which is called Molka. And I heard about this in a podcast once, that there is this epidemic in South Korea where people install hidden cameras, I guess in public toilets for the most part, for, spying on people, for voyeuristic purposes. And I think that's what this book is focusing on. And it does sound interesting. So I think I'll keep an eye out for that publication and see if I will be reading that in 2026, because the topic is of interest to me. I hope I didn't, I hope I wasn't recorded while we were in South Korea, except for my own videos.